Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. We're broadcasting live from Minnesota in the belly of the beast, a liberal zombie apocalypse of Roseville. Roseville, it's right by Minneapolis, St. Paul. Not a good area. Not if you're a conservative, I'll tell you that much. Join me as always, Mega. Jesse, how you doing there, buddy?
Doing good. Yeah, we got a lot of good things to get into. We'll be talking with Thomas Bowman, who is a CD2 congressional candidate. We'll be getting to the bottom of his candidacy and everything he believes in. We'll be talking about the Star Tribune poll, getting into some of the crosstabs there. We'll also be discussing Thomas Massie on Congress's continuing resolution, and we'll have some good information on that. And then we'll finally be talking about Peggy Bennett being listed as a Democrat on the ballot and some other mishaps of ballots happening around the country.
As early voting starts, it's crazy. You can vote for 46 some days. You know, it's crazy in this new world. Tushy joining you on the same camera. How you doing there, Paul?
Fantastic. I'm doing great. I had some delicious wings from Quinny's. I will show you guys the wings momentarily, but Jake does not allow me to eat wings on white chairs any longer. So
very nice white chairs.
It's a new rule that came into effect recently, unfortunately for me. But we did still get some great wings from Quinny's Pub and Grill, which we'll showcase soon. And I'm excited to chat about my favorite Congressman, Thomas Bowman, and potentially my favorite future Congressman, favorite Congressman, Thomas Massie, and potentially my favorite future Congressman, Thomas Bowman.
All right, reading your comments at home. Let us know where you're watching from. Is the lovely Bridget. How you doing, Bridget?
I'm great, and we have Bill Dangsman and his mom here. They've become true fans. We have Glenn Cotton, and Scuba McSalty says, "You're late, I want a refund."
What?
And Tucker at home.
We'll bring you a good show. Don't worry about that, Scuba. Running the dials, Mr. Deep State himself. Dawson, how you doing, Dawson?
It's me. I'm good. I'm frazzled, but everything's up and running, so I'm happy.
All right, let's get right into it. Our sponsors today is Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which, by the way, I just drove through that the other day. Unbelievable that road construction on that main drag on the east side is still happening. I mean, it's been like all summer long, and it's September. Sorry. I was going up duck hunting camp, so fresh on my mind. Also brought to you by Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're buying a home, selling a home, if you want just a good friend and a guy that sings in a church choir like my church choir, you can call me good friend Warren Wessel at Keller Williams. He's a great realtor, too, which is important. Believes the same things you and I believe in. Do you have the thing? You don't have the thing. Okay, well, We'll bring the thing later. How's that sound?
Nope, everything broke, so
everything
it's not gonna
broke?
be there today.
My God, now I got to go in here and find Warren's number.
Do you not have the number memorized yet?
No, it's 612 something. There we go. 612-419-7453. Call Warren Wessel. I usually look at the screen. Also, if you are buying a home, give the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company a chance at financing that home. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com. I would recommend checking them out on social media, especially Facebook. Great memes, great ideas, liberty, that they use their company to promote those things. The name, John Galt Mortgage Company, obviously on our side. Good people from Minnesota. Give them your business. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. If you want to interrupt us anytime or ask questions to Thomas, you can hit that Rumble rant and we will read them live on air. Welcome to the show, Thomas. How you doing?
Good.
I see it's Thomas William Bowman. It's how it's listed. You just prefer Tom, is that correct?
You can just call me Tom. When I first moved into the area, I noticed there was a lot of Tom Bowmans in the area, so I list my full name for no confusion.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in Minnesota since 1977. I have seen a lot of things moving and changing, but on the federal level, I'm frustrated with some stuff. I guess let me back up and give you some kind of bio. My mother was naturalized from Guatemala. My father was a veteran, graduated from the University of Florida and got a job as a planner for this little typewriter company called IBM. He did fairly well. I was fortunate because when I turned 17, I was graduating from high school, and my father made it clear that if I wasn't going to school, I wasn't living there. So I enlisted. And I served in the Army. I enlisted to be a cook and later volunteered to serve EOD. Great bunch of guys to work with. So I have a lot of experiences with these things. And my knowledge about Constitution is extremely good. I'll tell you, a legal immigrant who's passed the tests knows more about how our government works than most high school graduates.
That's sad.
And that's something I think it should be part of the graduation requirement.
Yeah.
You should pass that, and by the way, you should know some math. And
Of course, that should not be a federal requirement, right?
no, well, no.
But I agree, yes.
But a
good
competency
schooling
test,
would include
you know.
constitutional, at least a basic understanding of the Constitution. I still can go through a lot of the amendments in my head. I think I could probably get 90% of them just from, I don't remember where, high school, maybe it was even college, but just like, most people, I think, well, actually, that's a good question. Do most people even know what the first and second are? I think they do, but maybe, I guess I haven't seen
Probably
a wide
pretty close,
spectrum.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, so I don't want to go down that road. The reason we have you on this show is you're in Congressional District 2. It's the most hotly contested race in Minnesota in terms of Congress, to the point where we've talked about on the show, Tom Emmer pulled off a shenanigan where he basically took the endorsed Republican candidate, got him a cushy job as a senior advisor to the Trump campaign to clear way for a guy he was backing, Joe Tayreb. Joe Tayreb ends up winning the primary, no shocker there. He's the candidate facing Angie Craig, but now there is a constitutional conservative candidate on the ballot. Most people look at that as a spoiler candidate, you being the spoiler candidate, to try to split the vote of the conservative base. I think the first question that most people would have in their mind is, are you even a constitutional conservative? Are you just some Democrat plant?
Indeed, I'm a constitutional conservative, and to make sure that my knowledge of the Constitution was current and up to date, I've recently completed the Hillsdale College course on the Constitution. So the things that I see that the Constitution defines for the federal government, the government owes us international relationships, which I don't think you necessarily need to buy those relationships, but that's another issue.
We certainly are.
But the next thing they need to do is facilitate interstate commerce. And there's some issues on there. For example, we've declassified marijuana from being like cocaine to now it's a lesser drug. The federal ought to just let go of it, let it be so that we can use banks for their commerce. There's $30 billion in business last year, and they don't see any need to regulate it. Just give it to alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. It's not a good thing, but we can regulate it, and also maybe we can have a tariff of 5% for local grown, 20% for imported.
Right.
That would encourage people to grow here what we use here. That's important. Then the third thing the Constitution says is that the federal government needs to be watchful to make sure that state governments don't trample the rights that are defined in the Constitution for the individuals. And that's basically what I want to see. I'm not really seeing it.
Have you been involved at all politically in the past?
No.
Okay, so you kind because I think that's the other thing is you kind of came out of nowhere and people are like, well, who's
And
this guy?
I'll say also, incumbency is not a job skill.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it seems like
They advertise it like, oh, I've
I
been
know
doing this for so long. but
I'm usually
term limits are key
I know I'm
to
biased
minimize
against people that
corruption.
are incumbents.
Right.
Usually, I'm kind of in the opinion of throwing most of them out. Right.
Well,
so,
term limits would let rotate around. And the other piece that I'd like to promote is anybody out there, anybody who has convictions and not seeing what they want to vote for out there, run for office. Do it, because we need people to run, or term limits won't fly.
or if you have convictions, you can still run, right, Jesse?
So I want
Let
to
the
ask you a
voters
quick
decide,
question.
yeah.
Then. You said you've never run for office before, then, right?
That's correct.
And so, what specifically drew you to Congressional District 2?
I got chatting with some guys on Facebook, and they said they could help, and maybe that I should be running for District 2. And I looked at the candidates and thought, yeah, they need a real candidate there. So I decided to run.
What
Now-
time frame is that happened?
Oh, June?
Okay. When did I guess it was July when. This is why I know it, because it was the day that Trump was shot. Taylor Rahm announced he was suspending his campaign. Because I remember we were going to do a special show on this.
Right,
move,
Tom
and
was
then also-
filed before.
So yeah, you were
that.
filed before that. Okay, got it. Did you at least vote prior to this?
I always vote.
How do you vote?
in person with my ID.
Yeah, fair enough. But how do you vote? Like,
What kind of candidate?
Yeah.
I'm looking for candidates that support the values of the Constitution. Basically, we should be a free people, and I'm seeing administratively the law is becoming more and more cumbersome. Anyone wonder why the IRS in the entire world is the most feared entity? We shouldn't be afraid of our tax collectors.
So
This
you
is
don't
where-
think the IRS endorsing Kamala Harris's campaign today is going to help her?
Oh,
The most feared entity endorsing her.
it's clear that they're planning to ramp up the IRS and increase its power. But my concern is, why do I even need to keep records for half a decade or more just to make sure my taxes came out right? That's cruel and unusual punishment. That's just not right.
So I think what I hear
Tariffs,
is
you can reconcile
yeah.
that same year.
So you are, you tend to vote, in answer to that question, you tend to vote for limited government candidates who support the Constitution and our civil liberties.
Yes. Yeah.
how do you, like, in this current presidential race, where's your head at right now? Where would you vote?
I don't see a Democrat candidate at all. There's a shadow there, and there's some word salad, but it's got to be Donald Trump because his track record before was excellent.
Did you vote for Trump in
Definitely
2020?
voted for him before.
In
and-
2020 and 2016?
Yeah, and in 2020, and I stayed up for the elections. I stayed up to watch those votes coming up, and it's like Trump has made it. It's 11
Yeah.
o'clock at night. I know it's good, and then all of a sudden, whoop,
Yep.
statistically a very
Hat falls
unusual,
off. And
yeah, very unusual statistical jump in the votes, and then I find out Biden's president. I was kind of disappointed.
a lot of us were that way. All right, let's pull up Dawson on truthhurtsnews.com if you guys want to check it out. National Democrat donors bundle in-kind donations through constitutional candidate spoiler in Minnesota congressional race. This is, can you see the screen, Thomas, up there? Scroll down here. So this is your campaign finance account. This is what I think has got a lot of people's attention here. You show, and by the way, it has you listed as a treasurer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the whole show.
There's 6 max donors. Best we could tell, all Democrats. Every single one of them from outside of the state: Washington, Vermont, Wyoming, Massachusetts, D.C., and New York. All max donations, $3,300. Totals $19,800. That's the total amount you raised, at least according to the most. I mean, has there been any more funds that have come in?
No.
And those didn't actually come into the account because it shows disbursements. It says $19,800, and those are in kind. What's going on here?
They were collecting the signatures for me to
Okay.
run. Now, it is possible to purchase a place on the ballot, but I thought if I couldn't get the signatures, I'm not going to try because people need to want it.
So, these people are hiring who to collect the signatures? Do you have anything to do with that?
No, they delivered the signatures to me, and I didn't. I frankly am kind of challenged trying to go out personally and collect all those signatures.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
like-
No, that's a tall feat, and obviously worth $19,000.
And if I could get that much help, I would do the best I could with everything else. They haven't really been in much contact with me since. They touch base, say how's it going.
How did they get that relationship started? You know, it's
It was
not
on
just
Facebook.
Most people don't just have 6
My
max
posts are the
donors for
kind that Facebook occasionally likes to ban, and they kind of liked my attitude and thought maybe because I'm openly a constitutional conservative.
When you say Facebook, are you on like some big forums? Are you going to like
I was
arguing
on
with
various
Democrats?
forums, and they were following me. Also, they follow me on Truth Social, on X, and it's no mystery what my positions are. So they thought that would be a good candidate for the district.
And did you know these people beforehand?
No,
No. Okay, so you weren't friends with them on Facebook. You met them through groups or some other means.
correspondence. They would send notes, and then I would, carry on a bit of a dialogue and see what are you talking about. Question first was, have you ever considered running for office?
Are they the ones that advise you on how to actually file with the FEC and then how to take in these donations?
There's a phone number. You call the FFEC and you get that going. They didn't help me open the bank account. They didn't help with any of the other stuff. So,
But they obviously hooked you up with the donors. I mean, there's somehow you have to know who these donors are and how to file that on the FEC report.
I filed the report.
No, correct. Yes, but how did you
these
know?
donors find you?
You have to ask them.
Well, I think, I mean, when you're involved in campaigns, right, if somebody does something for the campaign, like they would have to report that. So, I mean, seems like what happened I've read some of the articles about this and having the conversation, it seems like these guys decided, well, we want to help him gather signatures. So they must have spent all this money on people to help gather the signatures. And then they have to say, well, this is an in-kind contribution to the campaign. We spent all this money for people to gather signatures. So then they say, here, Thomas, report this as a
Who's
in-kind
they, though, in this
contribution.
situation? Did you talk to all 6 of these donors, or did somebody tell you who they
No,
were?
I didn't talk to the donors.
Who's the person that you talked
I'm
to?
legally required to talk to all the
No,
donors.
I know, I get that.
It's like I got to get who they are, who they work for.
The reason this is such an interesting story, Thomas, is I think you really are a constitutional conservative. So I think the one thing people say is he's some Democrat operative. I don't think that's the case here. So the second thing is, well, now why do you have the interest of 6 max donors to the Democrat Party? Obviously, you've never talked to these guys. So who do you talk
and
to
if
then?
they thought I was going to help the Democratic candidate, they may well be surprised because I'm very serious, and I intend to
I think
defeat both candidates. That's all.
I know. I think they hope that you have that attitude.
And I think they might be surprised what they end up with.
Do you believe you can win this race?
I don't know. This year is one of the weirdest political years I have ever experienced.
Well, that's fair.
And all I say is don't vote early because the ballot might not look the same. A lot of weird things going on this
Well, if
year.
you vote early, you might have the wrong party for your candidate, or Kamala might not be on your ballot. We'll get into that story towards the end of the show. So, who's the guy? Who's the person or gal? Who's the person that you talk to know who these donors are, so that you can report on the filings?
There was correspondence. It was messages. And
Is there a name? What's the person's name?
I don't remember the guy's name. I'm bad at names. I'm autistic. I have stuff written down. I could look it up, but
Well, I mean, you're on an FBC. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's rules that you have to
I'm
accurately
running
report.
for
You don't
Congress.
know the
That's
name
real.
of the guy
Yeah.
that gave you this stuff. You would think that's pretty important.
why? Is he going
Well, so to make sure you've got an accurate accounting of what's come in and now the campaign.
Well, they brought signatures. That's what I needed.
Right.
So I guess if I'm being used by some conspiracy...
Well, you
so be
understand
it.
why someone would think that you're being used in
Well,
this case. If you don't.
sure. It's Russians. No, the Iranians. No.
Oh, I think it's Democrat operatives for
yeah,
sure.
you know, it could
Yeah.
be, and that's fine. And maybe they made a mistake because I'm not the kind of guy that's just here to goof around with the vote numbers. I'm serious. If you really want to have representation by a constitutional conservative, that's me. You can't buy my views, some of the things that I really am annoyed by in Congress. They make bills that are compound bills. They're really two different bills. And they stick them together, and one of them's really good. Everybody wants it, and one of them's marginal. We got to separate the stuff because we should only be passing good laws.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So you don't support the farm subsidy / food stamp / Ukrainian funding / foreign aid / continuing resolution
would
omnibus bill of $20,000.
I would have to vote no because
billion
they're not taking it apart.
Yeah,
You-
exactly.
So do you
No,
at
that's the
least
kind of
believe
trash that
that
they-
these Democrat, because you understand they are Democrat donors at this point, right?
Okay.
You don't know if that's true?
I have no idea.
Oh, because you can look
I
up.
mean, I don't have enough evidence to say that I'm 100% sure that there was part of some conspiracy from the I don't know.
Well, you can look up the donors online, and then you can actually see
I'd
that
rather
they're
make
giving
my
to like
website
Kamala
work than
Harris.
spend time doing that.
What's that?
I'd rather get my website working than
Well, it
spend
takes
time.
about a minute to look this stuff up.
Oh,
we
okay.
could do it literally live on the show if you want. If you want proof, do you want proof?
I don't. Okay, maybe they started me out.
Yeah. So you would understand if there are Democrat donors, their ideas. You're going to come in, you're going to play the spoiler, you're going to kind of splinter the votes. By the way, it's not that Joe Tarab has earned people's votes, so I'm not making that argument here. But
Well,
obviously,
basically,
the way
that's
they
one
look
thing I
at
did
it.
look at in the race, because to me, I mean, I'm not a politician, but I'm not stupid either. I don't think he could win. I just plain don't think he could win. He doesn't have the juice. Angie's got the war chest. She's got the money. No question there. But I think people might be tired of hearing the same old tune. And you can't talk about fighting term limits when you're running for, what would this be for her, the fourth term?
Fourth term, yep.
So how serious are you? I'm dead serious. I'll be there, I'll influence what I can, and then I'm gone. And I want to encourage everyone with any conviction that's not seeing what they want on the ballots, get on the ballot. We can change this country.
Going back to those expenditures, so do you have any idea how that $19,800 was spent? Obviously, they basically
My
spent
assumption is that it was used to handle logistics to get the signatures, because you're not just going to walk the street. You probably need to drive around. You probably need to print up stuff. There's a bunch of stuff involved. So, and take a look at it. Was it 20?
But you're completely in the dark on how it was done. Is what you're
Right.
saying.
All I was focused on is, you really think I can get signatures? If you can, I'll go.
Interesting. All right. So what do you plan on campaigning on? In terms, we got a
Oh, yeah,
rumble
we're
right
in.
here.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot says Joe T thinks that a little bit of constitutional infringement is okay. COVID, for example. Tom, do you think it is okay to lock people up for short periods of time, violating our rights and the Constitution?
I'm sorry, I can't.
That was about COVID lockdowns.
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
T-Rep had said that a little lockdown was acceptable. What's your opinion on that?
No, I don't. I had a bad experience when Waltz did the business shutdowns on the COVID. I have a kidney transplant, so I'm on immunosuppressants. I had an infection on my big toe on my left foot. I went to wound care to get the prescription for antibiotic. They were closed. Everything was closed. You couldn't get a cavity filled. By the time it opened up again, the toe's amputated now. I don't think lockdowns make any sense. I think it makes more sense to communicate with people openly and say, hey, we have a problem. Don't do things that might get you sick. And if the stupid ones get sick, well, Darwin knows all about that.
Wait, did you say you got a toe amputated because you couldn't get medicine you needed because
I
Walls
call
locked
it my
stuff down?
Waltz toe. I'd
Wow.
love to know how to sue somebody for that.
So because of these lockdowns, they shut down something you couldn't get the medicine
shut
that you
down
needed,
medical
and you ended
care.
up losing
It's
a
like-
toe because of it.
I
Because of
lost
Tim
the
Walz.
toe, yeah.
That's a story for the campaign show.
Yeah.
Put that in your stump speech, you know?
Oh, that's, yeah. And I had a stepson, had a cavity. It wasn't a really big cavity, but you couldn't do cavities. You could only do extractions. Well, I don't know how that helped COVID, but there's a lot of people out there that are disfigured for life because of some idiotic dictatorial policy. You can't just shut people down, and that's not freedom.
Scuba McSalty says Tim Toe Killer Walls.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Tom, a quick question for you then. Obviously, you're running third party in this election. Maybe that means that you think third party is the way to run. Would you ever run within the Republican Party, and do you think the third parties are the answer?
That's an excellent question. What I see is a giant mechanism where the Republicans and the Democrats are kind of using the same grinder. And what they'll do is they'll take all kinds of wonderful people and they'll grind it down to one person. And that's all that the public gets to really vote on. I think an independent can just show up and be on the ballot also. And let's see what the public says. It's up to the vote. But by allowing them what to vote on, we've seen ballot changes a lot this year, haven't we? By manipulating ballot changes, you're changing the vote. So if you let the independents run, why would you bother to go through the primary process? Now, on the Democrat side, they don't really have a primary process. They went and had a bunch of votes, but then the candidate that won, they didn't want him, threw him out, took the candidate that had the lowest votes possible in the primary and promoting her. I don't understand it at all. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah.
There
so
are-
you're saying there's no hope for the Democratic Party, and you think that the Republican Party
The party
operates
is
in the same
basically
way?
operating by dictate. Somebody says this is the one, and they anoint them. The
Well, both-
Republican Party at least has the primaries and at least honors them, but that process will grind down some other potentially wonderful candidates and put them aside.
Well, there's both major parties, Republicans and Democrats, are opposing third parties. Right, even in Minnesota, the chair, David Hand,
It's
chair
the
of the Republican
machine. They're
Party,
both the same
and
machine.
Ken Martin, the chair of the Democratic Party, they were both encouraged reducing so that these parties that used to, they needed 5% of the vote to get major party status and ballot access without all the signatures. Now they need 8%, and they both pushed us. Well, why? Why are the major parties so against the third parties? Third parties have a lot of power, and people, like you said, and several of us said here, they don't own our votes, right? So in other words, if the Republicans give us a globalist rhino like Mitt Romney, a CFR member who supports, all kinds of shenanigans in the world, and they say you better vote for him, and we all vote for him, then they say, oh look, we can shove these terrible, evil candidates down their throats, and they're going to vote for him. Or if some of us don't vote for him, as I didn't, and say no, if the worst thing could be have is a Mitt Romney, then we're going to get Clinton in 16. No, we got a second term of Obama, and then we got Trump in 16, right? So there's one reason to not have a corrupt Republican or corrupt Democrat. If you're a Democrat or Republican and you don't want to vote for somebody who's really corrupt, because then you're going to get him again the next time, or you're going to get the worst of the other party the next time. And also the third party candidates can pull the major party candidates to the issues at hand. So I mean, if they are corrupt, right? If they're not a Republican that is not a constitutionalist, or a Democrat that doesn't support some of these issues like they claim to, a third party candidate can pull them into the correct positions. That they're grassroots.
Is there an issue that you're just in a disagreement with both the two other candidates, Tayrab and Angie Craig?
Well, how about the wars? Ukraine.
Well, I think financing the foreign aid is a mistake. The Constitution doesn't have a provision for foreign aid. Yeah, international relationships, but how many countries? Go ahead and research this. How many other countries send aid to other countries regularly? How many? I think it's zero.
Not a lot of creditors out there.
So why are we doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Are our friends such enemies that we have to pay them to stay our friends? Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And paying Ukraine for this, I'll just say, money laundering.
Yeah.
It's not wholesome. It's not good. Now, you send billions and billions and billions to Ukraine, and then you say, well, we can't fund Social Security and Medicare. Cut it out. Just cut it out.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Social Security and Medicare?
Social Security was definitely one of the worst possible investments you could find in terms of return. How much did you pay in? How much did you get out? And then Joe Biden signed the bill, along with others, but he signed the bill to tax Social Security, which you already lost your shirt. Now they're going to get you for what little dregs you get back. That's just broken. Our tax system is also way too complicated. I just last year got a $500 fine for, I'm not even sure what. I asked them, and they sent me a letter, and it said, we have the authority.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goody.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of this income tax is it's just too complicated. I know the IRS has probably the largest administrative computer on earth. Why? You don't need to follow every single person's individual transactions.
Well, you do if you want to take
get
their money,
taxes.
don't you?
Yeah, that's where Trump was talking about tariffs,
Yeah.
which think of it like a sales tax. So there's a percentage, so the price on that goes up. But what if the income tax would either go away or become something as easy to reconcile as Social Security?
Mm-hmm.
You reconcile it, you're done, move on.
That'd be my dream. Get rid of the income tax.
Just the administrative stuff. I know they're going to want money,
Yeah.
but there's got to be easier ways to
Well, I don't know
gain
why the taxes. They could just print it, apparently.
They don't- yeah.
You're the only candidate in my district in CD2 campaigning against the IRS and against Wall's lockdowns. I think you might be my guy.
Is it you? So you live in Brooklyn Center, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's way outside of CD2. Is there a reason that is it these people on Facebook that encourage you to run in CD2? Because that would be, I guess that would be, is that CD5 or CD3 in Brooklyn Center?
I think it's 3.
Congressional District 3, which is also up again. Well, it's actually an open seat there because Phillips isn't running again.
Yeah, and truthfully, I wasn't thinking that much about the districts. I was just looking at the race and said, will I fit in this?
Yeah.
And I thought I would.
Do you
So-
have like business or anything in District 2 that draws you that district, or is it just kind of looking at the dynamics of the candidates in that?
No, in my mind, it's really Minnesota, and yeah, District 2 is who I represent.
We're one Minnesota, as Tim Walsh says, right?
well, it is. It's really it's a Minnesota, and there's a lot of different
Yeah.
interests in Minnesota, But I think freedom is an interest that we can all have in common, because the government shouldn't be telling us when you can open your business, or your restaurant's too small, you can't open, but you're a big company, you can't. No. And you want to control prices with price controls? They tried that in the 70s. It's not fun looking at empty shelves that are a bargain.
Right.
Just let economics go. If you start disrupting it, it takes a while for it to settle itself back down, and you don't know what else you're going to be goofing up while you
Yeah.
poke at it.
What do you got there, Tucci?
Yeah, it says here that you transferred your home with a quitclaim deed. Oh wait, no, that was Joe Tarab. Yeah, so did you ever consider that? Maybe if you don't live in the district, you could just transfer the deed to your house to your brother and then rent a shitty apartment in Burnsville and claim that you live there? Oh no, you're not a dishonest guy?
By the
Well,
way,
okay,
by
I
the way,
guess.
Tayrab has been reached out to and invited on the show. We invited him on Thursday's show, so if he wants to come on, he can make his claim. By the way, Angie Craig, you're welcome to come on the show too.
Yep.
Or these mysterious Democrat operatives. So you don't remember the name at all, the people that were encouraging you to get on the ballot? Did you talk to these guys on the phone, though?
No, it was mostly text messages and
Just so you have their
emails.
phone number.
Was it the Facebook messages? Because when you use that one,
Is it on Facebook Messenger? Is
It
that
may
what-
or may not have. Yeah. It may or not have phone
and
numbers.
they just here's the people that gave in-kind contributions to your campaign.
Right,
Just
they had
file
that
it on
delivered.
FEC. Yeah. And then since they got you on the ballot, they've
And then, of course, I started getting calls from, it was a UP, and they're starting with the conspiracy theories and all this. And then I hadn't thought about it till then.
Oh, I don't think there's a conspiracy theory.
Oh, no, they were
Yeah.
calling up you.
I think
you would've liked the phone
100% what
call.
happened was Democrat operatives believed they could get you on the ballot. They bundled money through, donors who were very willing to spend $3,300 to hire Democrat operatives to go door to door, and they got you on the ballot, and they think you'll take 1% to 2%, which is clearly a margin that's very huge in Congressional District 2.
No, I was thinking more like 40%.
You can think that way.
That would be nice.
You can think that way all day long. 1% to 2% will win that election, though, for Angie Craig. That's
No
where it comes
way.
Oh, for Andrew Craig. But if I get 40%, Andrew Craig.
Oh, if you get 40%,
can
yeah,
honor
you'll
her
be the
term
next
limits
congressman from
commitments,
CD2, south of you. All right, interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know a lot of people, and I'm one of these people, right? Where it's like I will, except when I was on the ballot myself, I ran as a candidate 12 years ago for state house. But short of that, there's never a candidate that you agree with.
Endorsed
100%.
by Tom Emmer too, by the way, just so
Endorsed
we
by
know that.
Tom Emmer, yes. That there's never a candidate that you agree with 100%. You always disagree with something. You disagree with some of these things. But if you think, well, I disagree with this person on taxes or some issue, but I generally agree with their principles, and I know that they mean well. They're an honest and decent and trustworthy individual. You vote for people even though you don't agree with them, right? Because that's all we ever have.
That's life, yeah.
And so that's how I've always voted, and I will, if it's a tie, if we got a third party candidate, say Libertarian or something, or a Republican, and they have equally, I think, if the Republican is like honest, trustworthy, decent, I believe they mean well, they're not corrupt as hell, they actually stand for, they're not a CFR member. I've never voted for a CFR member, not Biden, not Romney or whatever, but that, if you got a Republican you can trust, I'll vote for them because they're the ones that are more electable, they're gonna get more votes, right? But if it's a tie, if it's like, well, these guys, I got issues with Trump, but I got issues with Gary Johnson, bake that cake, you know what I mean? It's like, well, Trump's the one that's electable, right? It's like in 2016, right? It's like this, if Gary Johnson were some super principled guy that I didn't have tons of issues with him, I would have voted for him. I'd vote for somebody more principled than a major party candidate. They say vote for the lesser of two evils. But when the third party candidates are corrupt too, then I'll vote for a major party like I voted for Trump in 2016. So if like you said, the parties, none of the candidates own your vote, right? If
Those votes belong to the voters.
If Angie
And
or
they
Joe
put them in there.
Tarab
Forget that often, don't we?
if Angie or Joe Tarab are upstanding individuals who they haven't pissed off the people, they haven't lied to them, they haven't done done a bunch of been inconsistent and broken their promises, then they would probably get their votes. And if somebody votes for you, if I vote for you because I don't feel that these other candidates have been honest or trustworthy, then that's not your fault. It's not the people that got you on the ballot's fault either. It's that I would have voted for Joe if he hadn't lied to me and then continued with it and never tried to make amends, or if I ever thought that I could trust the guy, I'd vote for him. But I don't.
Well,
I can't trust Angie either.
Joe can come on the show and make it up with you, Tushy, because I know.
But that's what I'm saying. Is
I
that
know, I
it's
agree
not,
with you, yeah.
It's not that, people might think you're a spoiler. People might blame you to be a spoiler, or they blame the people that helped you get in the ballot. No, it's if these candidates can't earn your vote, then it's the blame goes to them. They have to earn your vote. Angie has to earn votes. Joe has to earn votes.
Let's see what the comments
Yeah, we got some comments in here. Scuba McSalty says, simply trying to split the Republican vote. Susie Scalera says, there are none so blind as those who will not see. Righty says, bizarre how you got on the ballot, but I love your answers about the issues. What are your views on gun control?
I'm a real live gun owner. I've been certified expert with the machine gun in the military, and I have a lot of respect for tools like guns. But the Second Amendment is very clear that there should be no infringement. And even the recent law that, I don't know if it's passed or if it's on its way, for gun and ammo storage in Minnesota, that says at home, in your own place, you need to keep your gun locked separately from your ammunition. Well, if somebody's trying to break into your house, that sounds awfully inconvenient, and it doesn't sound constitutional. I don't think they're supposed to be telling us exactly how to take care of it. We got to be responsible, but we have laws for that. Mm-hmm. If you leave dangerous things, you leave sulfuric acid on the kitchen table and the kid gets burnt, that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Any dangerous thing, we don't need to do it for every single dangerous thing that comes up. We have a law. We need to enforce it. Now, I don't know how to influence the judicial system to enforce equally and with some thought. For instance, you have the kid that was driving through Minneapolis shooting a gun in a stolen car. He gets in, the police catch him fine, and then the district attorney lets him go because, well, he'll come back for trial. Before he does, he murders somebody. This is the justice system. I don't know how to affect that.
We also don't know how to make criminals follow laws either, right?
Failed candidate says, this dude got played. How do you respond to someone that...
I'm sorry, what?
Failed candidate says, this dude got played. How do you respond to someone that...
I can't. I'm missing
No, don't worry about it. That's what
he says. This dude got played.
He's referring to you.
Oh.
You got
hey,
played.
Maybe I did. And maybe I'll play him back, because if I take the election, they might be sorry they were trying to play games.
Well, that would be the ultimate way to get them.
That would be the ultimate payback.
So, Tom, have you been invited to any kind of debate, or would you participate in a debate if you were invited?
No, I openly tried to, announce my presence to the various local media, and mostly got connections to their advertising departments. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the website up, so I need contributions, so I'm not going to be advertising just yet. Mm-hmm. But it's...
You should make an appeal to that dude on Facebook that to get more donations.
Yeah, you mentioned you need contributions.
Yeah, you need more next donors.
I'm pretty sure I can get them once I get the bank straight. Opening the bank account, I had to go to 3 different banks. And Wells Fargo, Bank of America couldn't cut the mustard, okay?
Yeah.
And actually, Wells Fargo gave me an account and then took it away the next week. So there's a lot of administrative baloney that goes on, too. That
sounds like a whole other show there. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Do you mind third wheeling? We got a couple other topics.
Sure.
Yeah, let's third wheel. So this is a new Star Tribune, KSTP, I think NPR News. They all combined to do a poll in Minnesota. What's interesting about this is it's the only other major poll that's been done other than KSTP Survey USA, which, if you guys remember the story from earlier this month, KSTP found that Kamal's lead in Minnesota got cut in half after adding Walz on the ticket. So it showed a flat 5-point lead. Let's pull this up, Dawson. This is a Star Tribune article. It says Harris leads Trump in close presidential race. Likely voter split even on the two candidates' favorability, although women and non-white voters prefer Harris, while men and rural voters lean towards Trump. But, by the way, I was talking to someone on the phone the other day, and he had mentioned he thought the Trump support wasn't as great as he thought in greater Minnesota. I said, I don't know. I travel a lot. I see a ton of signs.
I think Trump might take Minnesota this year. It's a possibility.
Well, you think you're going to win CD2, so I could get that. But although Jesse agrees with you, so maybe that's not as
well, that's the other
outlandish.
one. Jesse Ventura is a perfect example.
No, I was talking about Mega Jesse.
But back when he was being a
98.
candidate, politically he had no experience and so on. But the thing is, he was honest. He put up those points, and some of those points I disagreed with. But he was honest about what he was doing. So
Well, and he won because he was in those debates. So, if they do hold debates, you got to make sure that you're trying to invite yourself and get involved in those.
And you got to use the voice.
Yeah, there might only be
Yeah.
one. I would suspect in CD2 we'll be lucky if we get one debate, but we definitely.
they probably don't want a debate because I'm coherent.
Well, I'm sure Angie doesn't want a debate. Probably you want a debate, and I would think Tayrod probably wants a debate. But if he knew how bad he was at debates, maybe he wouldn't want one. That was what we referenced earlier
Maybe he should drop out.
when he said if he were to drop out, you could
if he
probably
drops out, I'll nail it.
win.
Yeah.
Beat
Would the
Andy.
CD2 debate happen in CD3 though? Where's
we-
Tayrab? Is he 3?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he actually owns a whole.
Or in DC? That's where
Yeah.
Angie lives.
He had. Well, and Angie, I don't know for sure where she lives. I hear Woodbury, but she, there was some issue with people protesting outside of her house, so then she
Well, hey,
bailed on
so
the
let me
district too.
let me
so.
finish my story. So I'm traveling to like Bemidji duck hunting opener, and I was like, what the heck? Let me just count. So basically, from Clearwater, Minnesota, just south of St. Cloud, all the way up there. What do you guys think the Trump to Kamala ratio was in terms of signs?
87-10.
Yeah, 30-1.
It was 6-1. It was 24-4. 6-1.
6-1, okay.
That's not
And then
enough
I drove
signs.
through actual Bemidji proper, and where you would imagine in college town, even though rural Minnesota, but a college town, you would think that maybe Kamal's got a slight lead. Trump had a slight lead. I think it was like 2-1 in Bemidji proper, and going by the university, which is impressive. But definitely more wall signs when you get into Bemidji proper. So, but just on the outskirts, 24-4. So, yeah, no big shocker that Trump is winning in rural Minnesota. The poll found Harrison Walls at 48% to Trump and Vance at 43%. When Biden, let's see, it looks like this is, how are they phrasing this? The support for Biden. No, hold on one second. Did they do this poll before? Am I forgetting this? Jesse? Yeah, scroll down there, Dawson. It's got the trajectory, and it says when Biden dropped out, it says, so it is Biden. Biden's numbers are at 45%. It was phrased in a weird way. So Biden was at 45% back in June to Trump at 41%. So they had a 4-point margin. So really, they both increased since then. The big key thing is they're finding just very few undecided voters. We were chatting about this in the pre-show. What is an undecided voter in this election cycle? What is
one
it?
that didn't vote early.
I guess. What is it? I mean, seriously, when you think of, is there something you don't know about Trump at this point, right? There's a lot we don't know about Kamala. But
There's some young people who aren't that politically engaged and maybe don't know. There's a lot of shifting opinions on Trump, as especially since he's been out of office. People miss him and they remember him a little bit differently than when he was in office. So I think that maybe some young voters, but besides that, I don't know who is undecided.
But I think they know a lot. I think they're just playing hard to get. And
I've talked to a
think
lot
they'll
of
go Trump.
Well, the other thing
More.
is it's a poll. And on a poll, I don't really care to even give them an answer. I mean, there's a lot of people who just don't care to be on the
Right.
polls.
I have an answer. I mean, I've talked
ahead.
to a bunch of these people. So, knocking doors for the Minnesota House, talking for a Minnesota House candidate, and some of these people, a lot of them are Democrats, independents, or Democrats, and self-identified. Say, I was a bus driver and city bus driver in the union for 19 years. Or I was a carpet layer for 30 years, and I've always voted Democrat. Joe Biden was, senile. I'm glad he stepped away. Trump, I don't like Trump, but this Kamala Harris, oh my gosh, she is a communist, and they're for the working man, the working person. They don't want communism. And a lot of these people, especially they're your age, they're like 70-ish, and they worked in the union, they voted Democrat their whole life, and they say, I don't like that they're teaching kids in school, well, you were born a boy, but you can be a girl if you want. Don't need to tell your parents. We'll just tell you that you're a girl in school.
Meanwhile, they
And-
don't know math when they graduate.
and people are pissed about electric cars and banning coal power. People are upset with crime. Just right over in Minneapolis, 10 miles from where I live. Just in Minneapolis, I'm in Inver Grove. Catalytic converters are getting cut off. People are getting carjacked at gunpoint, and the Democrats are very soft on crime. And then they say, well, we don't want that coming here. We're 10 miles away from this stuff right now. I don't want that in Inver Grove. I don't want carjackings and catalytic converter thefts, and we don't want them to ban gas lawnmowers and stuff. So when they look at Kamala and they look at the Democrats in general, they voted Democrat their whole life, but they don't like Kamala Harris and they don't like Trump. They would have voted Biden, even if they voted Biden in 2020 just fine. And then now that he's senile, they didn't like him either. That's why they're undecided. They don't like either one of them.
John F. Kennedy
they
never
can't
would recognize
stomach Trump.
today's Democrat Party. It's
Well,
not
that's
the
true,
same.
but I think a lot of those actually have converted already. I think you're onto it, and that's what we were talking about in the pre-show, is that they know the faults of Donald Trump, whether it's the mean tweets, right, or they just don't like some of his brashness. On policy, they probably don't dislike him too much, but maybe there's some issues. Maybe it's abortion. They attribute to him to overturning over Roe v. Wade. They want to kill babies at 6 weeks. Although they're probably against, 9-month abortions, right? But that's what I think the case is they see what they would consider the faults of Donald Trump, but they don't see the great highlights of the Democrat Party. So then the big question is, and this is why I think this is the case for Trump. I'm not going to say Trump's going to win Minnesota. I don't believe that's the case. I think he'll lose Minnesota, okay? But I think it'll be close. But nationwide, I think they split more towards Trump because it's the economy and the border being the top issues, and Trump's on point on those issues. Like he lost the debate to Kamala. She got him off his rockers on those issues. I'm like, he is doing so good messaging, especially on the border, which is a monumental issue. By the way, new polls, I think it was New York Times Siena polls, showing Trump with a good lead in Arizona, which is pretty huge. Doing well in Georgia right now, he's looking good in. So, unfortunately, North Carolina seems to be in bad shape, but who knows how that's going to play out with this crazy North Carolina gubernatorial candidate. Do you guys know that story? Do you guys all know the story? Do you know this one?
No.
I think I do.
Yeah, the Mark Robinson. Oh, it's crazy. We didn't put it. I won't go down that road, but anyhow. A lot of people think that's going to play into Trump's numbers. I don't know, Jesse. Just out of curiosity, do you think it's going to really hurt Trump?
North Carolina is closer than people think, and we'll see how it goes. But I mean, Mark Robinson basically shot himself in the foot for the governor run, calling himself a black Nazi, and so usually that's a political career ender. So I mean, I think Trump is still going to win North Carolina, but it looks like the governor's race is going to go to the Democrats, and there's third parties for people to vote in North Carolina, so. I think that Mark Robinson he's not going to win. But if we also want to pull up that NPR link, Dawson, there's a couple of interesting graphics that show some of this polling here. Go ahead and scroll down, and we can see the favorable and unfavorable ratings of all four of the candidates. Go ahead and scroll down, Dawson.
By the way, this was a Mason-Dixon polling and strategy, and it was 800 likely voters between September 16th and 18th.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can zoom in there a little bit to show that graphic, but it shows the favorable and unfavorable ratings of Trump, Harris, Vance, and Walz. There's a couple interesting things to note.
Jeez.
Trump's approval rating is at 46% in Minnesota. Kamala is at 47%. There's a 3.5% margin of error, so that's right within, that's a statistical tie. Same thing with the disapproval ratings, 53% for Trump, 51% for Kamala, both within the margin of error. This shows that this thing is a dead heat right here in Minnesota. J.D. Vance has 10% people who are not sure about him. It shows that he is still the most unknown of the four candidates. I think that he's still getting his name out there, but considering that Trump has 46% favorable ratings of him, J.D. Vance would have at least that plus more. Then we look at Tim Walz, who, and keep in mind, this is Minnesota. He's only got 48% of the people who approve of him. This is our governor. He doesn't even have half of the people like him. That's a major thing. 47%, nearly the same exact number, disapprove of him. We get told by the national media, Tim Walz is a popular governor of Minnesota. Really, then why do half of us hate him? and maybe even more than half, because he barely won half the votes for his last governor campaign. That was against Scott Jensen, who wasn't that great of a candidate anyway. Go ahead and scroll down to the next graphic there, Dawson, because we can see on specific issues what the approval rating is for Tim Walz.
What is with hold on? What is
making people lose their toes, for crying out loud?
Yeah,
Right.
what is with the graphic here? Is this just our screen or is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it looks
terrible up there.
great
Yeah,
on
so-
my screen. What I'm looking
ahead.
at.
Yeah, it looks better here.
Yeah, you guys would have to look at it on
Oh, okay.
this thing.
Okay.
I turned
Do you want to
down the
blow up
graphics.
that chart there, Dawson?
Yeah, if you could zoom in
yeah,
just a
there you
little bit there. It shows the approval ratings on different issues. So, first one shows his job performance as governor. That's where he's got the highest approval ratings, is just generally. Then they talk about the protests and riots after George Floyd, which is where Tim Walz has the highest disapproval. He has 52% of the Minnesotans who were surveyed in this poll say they disapprove of how Tim Walz handled the protests and riots after George Floyd. Then we look at COVID-19. Somehow 52% of Minnesotans are saying they approve of what he did. Usually the talking point by the Democrats is, I prefer that they were overcautious. That way they don't have to actually explain any of what they actually did. They just say, oh, we were being cautious, and that way they don't have to touch what they actually were doing to people. And then the last one is kind of very similar to that first question about Walz's record as governor, but this time they tie in the state legislature following the 2022 election. From there, we see a 4-point drop in the approval rating and a 3-point increase in the disapproval. So what that tells me is that the legislature is even more unpopular than Tim Walz. So what we need to do is continue to tie him and the record of the legislature, all of the bills that he signed in there, to his actual record, because if people aren't attaching that to his governor tenure, they need to, because that is what his record is all about. It's the bills that he signed from the legislature.
You know what I see, Jesse? I see clearly from this chart that there's one Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly. No, it shows half the people can't stand Tim Walz, and yet we're somehow told that he's a popular governor.
And
They're full
he
of
keeps
it.
telling us it's one Minnesota,
Right.
like as if anyone really believes that.
There's two.
It's so unbelievable. All right, let's go to this next story. This is Thomas Massey on the Rules Committee. By the way, he had a very good video 2 weeks ago. I think we shared on this show. But this is him talking about the continuing resolutions. Now, remember, this show actually launched in January of 2023. Our first material was the ousting of Kevin McCarthy. I mean, we covered all those first 3 or 4 days, right, Jesse? And then I think eventually it was the next week. How did that go down? It took a week or so before McCarthy was ousted.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I can't
I'm
remember
already
exactly.
forgetting.
4 days or something. Yeah.
Well, that's how we started on that. And we loved it at the time. Of course, we didn't know what that yielded. Then you get this character that really no one knew much about, Mike Johnson. And he comes in as kind of an unknown dude, right? And there's maybe some hope. He ends up all right. And it seemed pretty early on he was corrupted by the establishment. I don't even want to call it the Republican establishment, just the establishment in Washington, D.C., to the point where after all this mess, we still can't get 12 appropriation bills. They're passing continuing resolutions, continuing to kick the can down the road. It's been about 12 years straight. I mean, ever since I've really been covering the fiscal mess in Washington, D.C. Let's go to this tweet. This is shared on my page, at Jay Duesenberg, if you want to see it yourself. This is Thomas Massey on the Rules Committee.
Kentucky's recognized for questions.
Well, here we are. This is where I said we were going to be 3 weeks ago before the drama started. I said there would be some drama with the bright, shiny object called the SAVE Act. I said that was going to get stripped off and you were going to get a clean CR. I also predicted this would fall right before Christmas. And I believe this does fall on December 20th. Now, why have we picked December 20th? Because it's the same reason we always have December 20th. Everybody up here is human. There are no AIs or robots in Congress. And when you get to December 20th, you're 5 days from Christmas. You're 4 days from Christmas Eve. And you desperately want to be there with your family. So this is when the leadership here has the maximum influence. And again, I'm talking to the Democrats and the Republicans, because you've seen it on the Democrat side of the aisle. They love to pick the week before Christmas for this showdown, because you can smell the jet fuel fumes over at DCA. It smells like Christmas, that you're going to get to go home and open presents. I've been in HC5 when literally the Speaker of the House, not the Speaker we have now, walks in and says, if you vote for this, you can go home and unwrap presents with your kids. And if you don't vote for this, you're going to spend Christmas here with Nancy Pelosi. And then the chant starts, vote, 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 vote. Literally, people get enthusiastic to vote for something that they haven't read. So let me predict what we're not going to do on December 20th before I take a guess at what we're going to do. What we're not going to do, we're not going to do 12 separate bills. We are not going to spend this time. We've got a few months between now and December 20th. We could go back to working on appropriations bills. We are not going to do this. This sucker, whatever happens on December 20th, whether it's another CR to punt, to kick the can down the road for 3 more months, or whether it's an omnibus that funds all of government with one bill, it's going to be written behind closed doors. And every lobbyist in this town is going to try to attach their little thing to this bill. This train is leaving the station on December 20th. It's the only one that we know is going to pass. They call it up here must pass legislation. So everybody's going to try and get their little thing on this bill, whatever it is on December 20th, whether it's another continuing resolution or another omnibus. It's not even really a prediction that I'm making. I'm just telling you what has happened for 12 years, regardless of whether Democrats are in charge or Republicans are in charge. There may be a little twist. We may do half of a CR, it'll be a whole CR, and half of it will end in February, and half of it will end in April, and they'll convince you they got something more clever this year than they had last year. But it's going to be the same old thing, warmed over, written behind closed doors, rolled out here. We're not going to have time to read this thing.
All right,
That's
go
all.
ahead, Dawson. So, I was driving up, like I said, to Bemidji, and one of the very few Democrat properties up there, or that identified as a Democrat because they had signs. I don't even think they had a Harris sign on there, but it said, the number one cause of inflation, corporate greed. Just like, yeah, because the Democrats are getting big corporations. Have you ever looked at their FPC filings? So I'm just like, I think this person believes it. And I actually think a lot of people believe it. And it's like, you know what the number one cause of inflation is? Printing money out of thin air to bail out Washington, D.C., which is what we're going to continue doing. That's why I'm so bearish on the future prosperity of the American government, because they've screwed up so much. They got $35 trillion in debt. They continue to run these massive budget deficits, and there's no fix in sight. And the Republicans are in charge, and they don't give you 12 appropriation bills. They give you one gigantic omnibus bill. And in this case, and it's gonna it happens every Christmas. He says, we've seen this play out so many times. And by the way, the Republicans will say, now's not the time. Trump just got elected. We can't have this fall on Trump. Now's not the time. There's an important election coming up. We can't, they're always going to have the excuse.
And Christmas with Nancy Pelosi is quite the threat.
That is a threat. Yeah,
That's
fair
quite the
enough.
threat.
But if you have to do something to save America's financial prosperity, you might as well have Christmas with Nancy Pelosi. But it's the same old shit every single time. It's the biggest issue. What are you pointing at there?
MN cat burglar. That's a new one.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe it is new.
So, yeah,
Next
Kaplerger asked, Tom, will you fight with Massey and take down the corrupt politicians in D.C.?
And it would be delightful if I could just grab them and take them down. But what we need to do is to work on getting the structure so that these omnibus bills, I mean, we all know this is a problem. We all know it catches so much extra stuff that's totally unnecessary, totally wasteful. And we're still not doing the job that we're supposed to do. If they're supposed to budget, then let's budget. I see a lot of fluff. I think Elon Musk would be great if he could go in there and wreak some efficiency. But
Yeah, well,
I mean,
I hope he gets to be the chair of the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge.
I mean, that's as good an answer as I guess I've heard. I mean, it's like, will you fight with Massey to take down the corrupt politicians? Well, Massey said it right there. It doesn't matter if it's Republicans in charge or Democrats in charge. They do the same thing. They pass the same thing. And that's what I think is not ringing true with a lot of these Republican activists in CD2. They say, oh my God, I know that there's many, many issues with the Republican candidate. You know, he wasn't from here, he's been dishonest, whatever else, but we got to vote for him because otherwise we'll have a Democrat. And you see it's like in 2017, Republican majority Congress, second largest spending bill in the history of America, and they passed gun control. They had fix nicks in there, right? And so it's like Republican majority passes gun control, the second largest spending bill in the history of the country. And, you have Republicans had the Rules Committee, right? Republicans pushed to the floor with no amendments, and Massey was trying to fight that back in 2017. Allow amendments, get rid of fix nicks, right? And now, same thing. I mean, Massey's telling it like it is. It doesn't matter if the Republicans are in charge, Democrats are in charge. I mean, look at this. We're funding the Ukraine right now. Who's in charge of Congress, which controls the purse strings? Republicans. And yet we've given $100 billion or so to Ukraine while the Republicans have had a majority, right? So that doesn't hold water with me. They're not hitting me with this, you better vote for Joe Tayrab or else we'll have a Democrat. It's like, it's not going to probably be the majority seat anyway, but if it is, tell me how this is any different. Right now we're in the majority and we're doing everything we shouldn't, right?
Right. One other thing to think about with this continuing resolution is that Emmer is the whip, and he is going to be whipping Republican votes to vote for this continuing resolution. And the fact that Emmer's clear choice in this race is Joe Tayrab, are we supposed to think that Joe Tayrab is going to go in there and give a similar answer that Tom gave, that he would oppose these omnibus, unconstitutional continuing resolutions? I get the feeling that Tayrab would be a vote with Emmer.
Okay, but I'm going to push back on you. Hold on one second. Dawson, pull up the A3. I'm going to push back on you just a little bit there, Jesse.
Okay.
Go to the A3. I don't think it's fair to always criticize Tom Emmer's choice in candidates. Let's go ahead and play the A3 real quick.
I'm Emmer. I'm here to support the conservative choice for the Minnesota House of Representatives in this district. It's Paul Tushy. He's running against a guy who's been in office for the last 10 years. Joe Atkins voted in favor of growing government. Paul Tushy, he believes that you can't grow government any longer at the expense of the citizens that it's supposed to be serving. If you live in Northern Egan, Inver Grove Heights, Mendota Heights, or Sunfish Lake, vote for Paul Tushy on November 6th. Thanks.
I'm Paul Tushy, and I approve this message.
My goal is to play that probably another 50 times.
That's one I can't disagree with. I have to agree with that endorsement by Emmer. That was a fine endorsement, if there ever was one. But yeah, I mean, that's a right. He's literally in charge right now, and yeah, of course, that's why that's another thing of voters in the second district, like myself, who's like, there's all this pressure. Well, you better support this Republican, even if he's corrupt, even if he's wasn't the endorsed candidate and stuff. We have to support him. It's like, if you do that right now, we're looking at Congress and saying, even with the Republican majority, we're not seeing limited government. We have the same corruption, the same Ukraine money, the same gun control, right? Same growth and spending, same inflation. So we need to change this. Well, how are we going to change it? You know how we absolutely won't change it? If we endorse a candidate, if there's a good candidate in the race and Emmer says, oh, this guy might not go toe the line. Well, we better get rid of him and put somebody else in there from outside and just, cramming in somebody who's a yes man for the Washington establishment and then making sure you guys better vote for him. If everybody falls in line and votes for him, they say, oh, great, we can do this. If anybody ever steps up, a Massey type, a Thomas Bowman type, anybody steps up to run as a Republican ever in CD2, we'll just get rid of them and put somebody else in there that's a yes man for the Washington establishment, and the people are going to fall in line and vote for them. Or if we don't fall in line, they'll say, holy cow, I guess we can't do that. We can't just expect that we can throw somebody in there and everybody's going to fall in line. Because, I mean, if we're not having success now with the majority, what good is it just to get a bunch of majority in there of the corrupt yes men for Emmer and the Washington establishment?
Right. Let's go to this last story here. This is mishaps on the ballots. There's two that we want to draw your attention to. One is in a southern district of Minnesota. Now, this is just funny. Go pull up the D1 there, Dawson. This is Peggy Bennett, who accidentally, this is KTTC reporting, accidentally ended up being a Republican on the ballot when she's really a Democrat. Oh, I'm sorry. She ended up as a Democrat instead of a Republican. Oh, man, I get this stuff confused. She's a very liberal voting Republican, just so you guys know. Huge rhino. Some say globalist rhino. According to reports from Faribault County, incumbent Republican Representative Peggy Bennett is listed under the wrong party in the county's ballots. According to Bennett, the ballots in House District 23A are the heart of the problem. Bennett says she is listed as a DFLer on early voting ballot. And I've seen an image of this. I don't know if this link, let's see. The link does show it. Let's see here. Click on that link there. And you got to scroll down to the bottom. There you go. Keep going up. No, right there at the bottom of the first one. There you go. See that bottom left? It says State Representative District 23A, vote for one. Peggy Bennett, Democrat Farmer Labor Union. Wouldn't that be funny if there was a troll account that had it was Peggy Bennett, Democrat endorsed or something like that? That'd be pretty funny. That's the image. It's not me, by the way. If this comes up, it's someone that watches the show that did it. Not me, okay? Just to let you know that. Anyhow, with this Bennett's concerned, she may be losing votes. According to the statement released by the Office of Minnesota Secretary of State, it is aware of the error. It said this error is only affecting Faribault County ballots. The Office of this is a quote. The Office of the Minnesota Secretary of State is aware of a localized ballot error impacting Faribault County voters and State Representative 23A. The ballots incorrectly identify the candidate's party. County officials discovered the misprint on September 20th and will be pursuing corrective actions through the courts. The error is limited only to ballots issued by Faribault County. The ballots for State Representative 23A issued by Freeborn, Steele, and Waseca counties accurately list the candidates' parties, the statement said. So, is this a intentional error, you guys think? What do you got there? You got your wings? You doing
I saw there was comments.
Somebody commented about his wings.
What's the comments?
Where it go? I'm Paul Tucci and I support these wings. And then Terry Time says Emmer just wanted his wings.
Yeah, I saw those comments go through, and I thought it might be a good time to say that even though I'm not allowed to eat wings on these white chairs, so people won't see me eating them, I was eating them, and I will finish the rest of them after the show. These are some fantastic gochujang wings from Quinny's Pub and Grill in Montemita.
Montemita, that's right off of 694 and Century Avenue. Just go a block north, you'll see it. My favorite wings, by the way, the garlic parmesans. I love those things. Run by a Patriot, Janice Quinlan. We've had her on the show. The other story, Dawson was dying for us to talk about this, was in Montana. So this is kind of a crazy story. You did end up convincing me to talk about this on the show. So in Montana, apparently Kamala Harris didn't show up on electronic, how do I phrase this? Electronic absentee ballots.
Another thing the Simpsons predicted.
What's that?
Yet another thing that the Simpsons predicted.
What did they predict?
Oh, I don't know. Homer was trying to use a voting machine once to vote for Obama.
So that's not the case. Dawson, do you have can you just pull up a story on this? I should have had it in the.
What story would you like?
Whatever. Didn't we were looking at USA Today earlier, weren't we? The way this is it was kind of a mystery to us that they have this in Montana, but if you're voting absentee overseas, so I would imagine the most people that this applies to are GIs overseas, right? But perhaps more, maybe some people in business. But she was so you can actually request a PDF ballot sent to you. I don't know how this works. I think it's the first time they're doing it. Yeah, this was on. Is this their USA Today?
No, I'm looking for USA Today. It's Bing, so there we go.
Oh yeah, you do Bing, don't you? There you go.
Well, not by choice.
Dengsvin's mom says it appears anyone can apply. Oh wait, sorry. It appears there is foreign election interference.
Well, we don't know yet. Oh, is this a fact check here? No, Montana did not take Kamala Harris. So we don't need an article here. So essentially what happens is you're in Montana, you want an overseas ballot. They have come up with a new system. I only imagine they do this to save money on postage and printing. The ballot gets sent to you via PDF. You can print it off, fill it out, and send it back in. That electronic ballot, on day one of early voting, so they must have very liberal laws like Minnesota, at least with their absentee. Apparently that did not have Kamala Harris. Just a small oversight. Kamala Harris not on election. Now, Dawson, you don't believe this, but it wasn't malicious, right?
I think 120 GIs voted before anybody noticed that her name was missing.
Yeah. Right.
I think there's like one or two people. I mean, it came up pretty quick, right?
Right. I mean, nobody noticed because nobody was voting for her if they were serving overseas.
No, I get the joke.
She says
yeah.
no one is serving overseas. Nobody's serving.
Yeah,
in
no one's in a combat
right now.
zone.
Yeah.
Fair point, right? Yeah, so
Right.
it couldn't even affect her.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's the secret thing that they were doing. We're gonna prove her statement wrong by taking her off the ballot. Well, anyhow, pretty interesting. I mean, if this election couldn't be more interesting, there you go. You got a couple big mishaps on ballots in states. I don't know how they correct this in Minnesota, by the way, because people have voted for Peggy, and I imagine some people voted for Peggy Bennett that wanted to vote for Peggy Bennett, and they're just like, finally, she came to the party we wanted her in this whole time, and the way she votes. So now we're voting as Peggy Bennett, the Democrat we've always known. I don't know.
That Steve Simon did put something out, and it only affected 17 ballots. I guess the 17th person was, I think he was like a 90-something-year-old veteran that was the one that found it and reported it. So I think Peggy Bennett took a picture with him or something. But anyway, he was the 17th person to vote in that county, in that House district of that county. So apparently him and 16 others were the only ones affected, and they've reached out to all the people to make sure that they've, to tell them that the parties were reversed on this and they could change their vote if they want to. I mean, if it's within 17 votes, which clearly that race will not be, then I'm sure they could have fun with that. But
I know certain primaries that were within that margin, 17 votes flipped one way. That just shows the electorate too. It's like, well, I don't know who Peggy Bennett is, but she's the Democrat, so I guess I'll vote for her.
Yeah, people vote party line.
Oh man, I commented on a tweet by Royce White this morning, and it was a clip of Amy Klobuchar when she was talking about, I just met with Joe Biden. He's still sharp as can be. And then we all had this meeting with all senator leadership and all that. And she's just gaslighting people. And I'm like, yeah, if like Minnesota voters literally were paying attention and studied, she would pay for this at election time. But most are just not going to pay attention. And so it won't matter, right? But like, that's like high level lying that we all knew. We knew, but most people are like, no, he's sharp as a tack. That Joe Biden sharp as a... Oh, shocking. This debate, we didn't know until the debate. Oh, wow. Okay, he's really hurting our poll numbers, right? Oh, God. That is the biggest argument. There's so many arguments for Trump. One of the big ones, maybe this should be the biggest one. This sounds bad that I'm not saying this is the biggest one, but like not have World War III, right? Like Trump will be monumentally better on Ukraine. By the way, Zelensky like slamming. You see, Zelensky's basically campaigning in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Josh Shapiro
that's the
signing
thing.
bombs for Russia.
I think that loses them votes. I mean, I can't think that that's going to help. I mean, and same thing, we were talking about this before, but I mean, who signs a bomb? Who does that? Especially for the Ukrainian war, it's like, what are you doing? So yeah, I think that most people cannot relate to signing a bomb and doing military transactions like that. So I think that with military contractors, so I think that most people will look at that and say, that doesn't relate to me. That's not the kind of leadership and vision that I want to see for this country.
Well, I think that
I hope
might
you're
be
right, Jesse. It'd be a good question for a guest, any future guest working with Pennsylvania elections on a future show.
Oh, yes. We are going to have Cliff Maloney, the leader of the Pennsylvania Chase, on the show on Thursday. He'll be zooming in. That is going to be exciting because they are turning out a lot of new voters, chasing down ballots, or new voters, I should say, getting ballots in the hands of people that want to vote early. Pennsylvania is very liberal in terms of how long you can vote. And by the way, a strategic error by Trump in 2020 not to vote early, obviously corrected in this issue. But we're against voting early, but when that is the rule, that's the law of the land, then you have to take advantage of it. You got to try to change the law. That's just how politics plays out. But anyhow, I would say if it's not stopping World War III, the other big reason why, my argument for voting for Trump is, do you really want this facade that the Democrats pulled off in this big scam of just changing out their candidate at the last minute to work? Like you were saying in terms of CD2, it legitimizes the process. She didn't win a single primary vote, and she's the candidate. And apparently they wield so much power they scared off any challenger Well, they didn't even have the convention. They had the vote before the convention.
Vote for the
so do you
person
really want this to work? I mean, my God, it should be the scorn of everyone that this even happened, and yet she's tied with them. But
in order to save democracy, we have to vote for the person who finished last place in 22 and didn't even get a single vote in 24 to save democracy.
And then barely does any media interviews. Like, didn't we do that on the show on Thursday? Like the amount of interviews between the two, it's like a big miss. Like totally different. Van's doing it.
I don't know if you've seen the meme.
Something like that.
There's a meme, where Trump they don't even cover the assassination attempts anymore, but it's like there's another, there's attempted, a guy on the golf course with a gun, and the media headline is Kamala is, a little shaken up after this interview, but she's doing okay.
Yeah.
And this is, I'll put our candidate on the spot here. I haven't discussed this at all, but you mentioned Royce White, and I think hopefully it'd probably be a softball. I would think he's your term limits guy, but Amy Klobuchar is going for a 4th term. Her challenger is Royce White, who's the first ever black candidate in Minnesota to get the U.S. Senate or nomination from either party, and the first millennial born in the 1990s running for U.S. Senate. Do you have a choice? Have you been following the race for U.S. Senate?
There's also Rebecca. So
there's Rebecca Whiting, Libertarian candidate. They're very good, and there's an Independence Party candidate. What's their name?
Joyce Lacey.
Joyce Lacey, and I'm familiar with Rebecca a bit too. She's from up in Bemidji and has a bunch of. She was on the show before, right?
Yeah.
But have you been following the race for U.S. Senate? Have you chosen a candidate that you're supporting there, or still considering them?
Not yet. I'm not going to promote incumbents in general. But I need to know the issues and then vote for, like you say, find someone that's thinking like you do, and hopefully they're honest and forthright. Because I've seen memes that suggest that the Democrat Party is asking Kamala to shut up because her policies will destroy her attempt to be elected.
Well, there we go. Well, Thomas, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We're going to be live with the post show in a couple minutes. We got to let Thomas out. If you don't already support the show on a monthly basis, it helps us grow and continue doing great things here in Minnesota. Click join on Rumble for those that are already subscribers. You know where to find us, right on Locals. Thank you to our sponsors, Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're buying or selling a home, give my good friend Warren a call. And if you're buying a home, give the guys at John Galt Mortgage Company your business. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. Thank you very much, Dawson, for running the dials. Bridget, for reading the comments. Thank you for all the great comments today. Sorry, we didn't get to too many of them. We had a jam-packed show, but Rumble Rants. And Thursday, we'll be back here with Cliff Maloney, confirmed from the Pennsylvania Chase. That's a very interesting story. I'm really looking forward to it. And maybe Joe Tarab, maybe? We'll see if he gets back to us. Well, should I check my email?
Crossing
Did we
my
get back? No, not yet. Anyhow, we did invite him, so we'll see if he wants to come on and make his case. But thank you, Thomas, for making your case today.
I'm sure we'd be happy to host a debate between Angie Craig, Joe Tairab, and Thomas Bowman.
100%. We'll host as many
100%.
debates as possible. I also like to get that furry to debate Brad Ganser in the Maple Grove race, city council race. So
in costume.
And then too bad Jesse dropped out of running against Finke. We'd have loved to host that one, but
yeah, there's
Thursday night.
Yeah, actually, it sounds like that might be rescheduled. So I'll confirm what's going on Thursday. But if anybody wants to go to a debate where Lee Finke is up there debating, well, I can give you the info.
All right, join us on the post show. Hit join on Rumble. We'll be live in about 2 minutes. For everyone else, we'll see you back on Thursday. Take care.